Alright guys, I'm going to do my Manilla Road tier ranking video. And Manilla Road is one of those classic US power metal bands. You know, they kind of helped define a genre in a way. I mean, we're talking about a band that came out in the late 70s and lasted all the way until, what, 2017 when Mark Shelton passed away. Rest in peace. Fortunately, I got to see him live. Mark Shelton was an amazing guy. He talked to me for a really long time, and it was just really surreal to get to talk to a legend like that. And he was so down to earth and humble. He was the real deal. Now, before I start this, I will say Manilla Road is one of those bands that some people would say have done no wrong. Sometimes, and as a big of a fan that I am of Manilla Road, I have to admit one thing. Sometimes I think they get overpraised just because they're Manilla Road. Sometimes I feel that they get zero criticism just because it's Manilla Road. I think their discography is pretty solid. They haven't really done anything that's awful. But there's some things that if it were me, I would have done a little bit different on certain albums. A lot of it's production related. So anyway, let's start at the very beginning with Invasion, their first album. This one is almost like the rock-a-rolla of Manilla Road. It really doesn't sound like Manilla Road at all. But it's very much Mark Shelton. It's very much his voice, his guitar playing. But some people will say this has a bit of a space rock sound more than anything. Yeah, I don't know much about space rock, but I guess that probably sounds about right. You know, it's got like, what, 6 tracks on it. I mean, it's a very good album. All the songs are pretty solid. I re-listened to it not too long ago, and I was pretty amazed that I forgot how good it was. And to me, the crown jewel on this album is the song Centurion War Games. It's an all-acoustic song. I don't know why nobody talks about the song. I just really love this song. It kind of makes me think of something Demons and Wizards would do. Like, I can totally picture Hansi singing this. I don't know, but you know, I'm gonna give this album what were my ratings here? I'll say this album's roadworthy. It's not a masterpiece, but it's an interesting piece. Next, the album just called Metal. So this one, well, actually, no. I'll take that back. Let's talk about the album, the forgotten album, Mark of the Beast. So, word is, Mark Shelton really didn't like any of his work until Crystal Logic, is kind of what I understand. But you know what? I can kind of see maybe if he was more into the metal thing. I guess the first couple Manilla Roads are kind of a little more on the rock side, but I don't think that's a bad thing in this case. They're heavy enough to be metal to me. But he had one album called Mark of the Beast that he never even released until early in the 2000s. So a lot of people seem to really like this album. Sometimes I wonder if they're liking it just because it's the underdog. It's Manilla Road, and it's the album that everybody has forgotten. So of course we got to like this one. Personally, I think there's some good stuff on this, but this is far from a masterpiece to me. I personally like Invasion and Metal better than this. The first couple tracks are pretty well just clean tracks. I think they're too repetitive. That's just me. But then the third track, Avatar, actually, it sounds like a heavier Manilla Road song. And let me tell you something. Mark Shelton is a wizard with clean and acoustic guitars. He makes some magic happen with those elements, but I just don't feel a lot of it on this album. So I'm kind of with Mark on his feelings about this one, but it's the only one he didn't feel good enough to put out. So I don't know, but there's a few more heavier, more rockish songs that I like, but I'll have to give this one I can't help it, Vanilla Road. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about metal. So this one is a little heavier than the past two. This one is a little more straightforward metal than Invasion. You know, personally, I can hear some foreshadowing here of Crystal Logic, especially in the song Cage of Mirrors. I totally hear Crystal Logic in that. But some of these songs are just a little bit more on the rock side, but I still think they're really good. I really like the production on this one. One of the few albums where the production is actually like super clean and clear. Not very many Manilla Road albums do sound like that, but I will give this definitely roadworthy. It's not a masterpiece, but it's very good. Next, now the album that Mark Shelton, I think, likes. Begins the era of Manilla Road that Mark is proud of, I think. And to me, it's kind of the start of a streak of albums, what I would call the golden era of Manilla Road. So this album very much sounds a little more metal and power metal, but at the same time, there's a lot of doom metal in it. Like the song Riddlemaster and the Ram. Songs like Necropolis really sound more like straight traditional metal. Flaming Metal Systems. But I don't know. I think this album's pretty solid from beginning to end. The only thing weird, there's like one kind of commercial song on there. It's not bad. I don't mind it. But it finishes out with Dreams of Eschaton, which, strangely enough, I mean, we got this awesome acoustic stuff. Like I was telling you about what I really like Mark Shelton's acoustic stuff, but then it goes into Angel of Death by Angel Witch. I'm thinking Mark Shelton was an Angel Witch fan, unless this is a total coincidence. But I always wondered how that riff sounded so dang similar. It's not like it's that common of a riff. But this album is definitely an all-time classic, though. I'm going to have to give this one, it's Road of Kings for sure. Now we go to Open the Gates. So this album is kind of like Crystal Logic on steroids. Personally, I think this is one of my favorite productions of Manilla Road 2. Like, this sounds solid. The guitars are pretty beefy. Everything's just super clear and crisp to me. Something I would have liked for more Manilla Road albums to have. But you know, every song on here's killer. And of course, the song Road of Kings is one of my favorite Manilla Road songs. Plus, it's got Astronomica. The whole thing is so good. Definitely gonna have to say Road of Kings, no doubt. Next, The Deluge. Little different from the previous album. It kind of starts picking up a little bit of thrash elements, but not thrashy enough to be a thrash album. It's just like traditional power metal with a little more of a bite, you know, a little more tremolo in that picking hand. This album's a little darker, maybe a little creepier, but definitely epic. The production kind of goes down a step on here, but it kind of works for its benefit in a way. I kind of like the way it sounds. Yeah, I don't know. But again, every track is pretty good. Like, I don't think there's really any... There might be a couple tracks that are a little lesser than the other ones, but the whole album is listenable. I love the whole thing myself. So I'm going to have to give this Road of Kings. Next, Mystification. Now Manilla Road is playing straightforward thrash. I mean, it's still pretty power metal at the same time, but this is really in your face, fast, and this album is a masterpiece to me. Like, this could almost be my favorite Manilla Road album. It's part of the golden era of Manilla Road, so it's hard to pick one. But this album really sounds dark. It sounds, I don't know, just almost sad and dark at the same time. It's just such a amazing atmosphere. It's I've got nothing bad to say about this, nothing at all. Road of Kings. And by the way, the production's pretty solid too. Like, this is a great production for this album. This could be like the standard for the rest of the Manilla Road albums. I would have been fine with that. But anyway, now we go to Out of the Abyss, another thrash album by Manilla Road. Only this one feels a little more like a thrash album, with the exception of a few tracks. This album starts off with Whitechapel, a song about Jack the Ripper. It's one of the meanest songs I think he's ever written. It's scary. It's scary and it's brutal. It's awesome. I still think a lot of my favorite songs on this album are the ones that are more atmospheric and the cleaner stuff. I hate to say that, but I feel like those just have more depth to them. Although the fast thrash songs are good too. The production on this one kind of goes down a little bit of a notch. Not quite as good sounding as Mystification, but still pretty good sounding. I don't think I can give this quite Road of Kings, because I feel like it's lacking a little bit of depth of the past couple albums, but this one's definitely roadworthy. Next is Courts of Chaos. I have mixed feelings about this one, but one side tells me this album's a classic, and the other side's telling me it's flawed. To start off with the worst of the worst, it has a drum machine on it. I hate this. I don't like fake drums, especially when they don't sound very good. These sound very obviously fake. I hate that. It drags it down just a little bit, but even if the drums were real, there's still some production issues that bother me. Some songs sound fine. I think the guitar itself sounds a little bit too fuzzy sometimes. Like, I feel like a lot of this stuff could really use like a low pass filter and it to kind of get out that fizziness out of the high end of the guitar. I don't know, some songs suffer more than others with it. But this album has some of the most amazing original Manilla Road songs. Dig Me No Grave is awesome. It's super heavy and awesome. DOA. So we got a little bit of like synthesizer keyboard stuff going on here. His song is creepy, but also very epic. The song Courts of Chaos, very, very cool. And then I feel like the album kind of goes into like a little bit of a dip, and it tries to be a little thrashy, and with those fake drums, it just doesn't paint the right picture to me. Along with those fuzzy guitars, it just kind of, maybe if the production was a little better, I could appreciate these songs more. But the album kind of ends with a bang. The Books of Skelos, I believe. Awesome way to finish the album. So, I don't know. It's very good. Definitely not Road of Kings for me. Man, I might have to put this as roadworthy just for the fact that some of these songs are just too darn creative and good to go any lower. Okay, now Manilla Road they didn't really break up but for more than 2 years. And Mark Shelton did a side project called the Circus Maximus, which I don't have an icon for this, so I'm not going to rate this. But he did that, but he still ended up putting it under the Manilla Road album. I think it's because the name was already established, so why not? But anyway, fast forward to the early 2000s, like 2001-ish. We have a comeback album called Atlantis Rising. I will say, this is the part of me that might not make friends with other Manilla Road fans, but I like the comeback albums, but not as much as I like the original run of Manilla Road albums. Mainly it's production quality and Mark Shelton's voice. So he ended up hiring another singer to fill in for him here and there, but Mark still did some parts here and there. But the story that I know is he was doing a live show and he hit a high note and he just pushed it a little too hard and he tore his vocal cords. And the doctor, I guess, told him, you gotta really watch it because you might lose your voice altogether if you do this again. So Mark really had to limit himself on vocals. So, and I love his voice. His voice really isn't like I can't explain it. It's really not that good, but at the same time, it's amazing. It's just so different. It's very nasally, but I love it. And he could do like these high-pitched screams like no other. And you know, obviously, he shouldn't do that because he hurt himself over it. But anyway, Atlantis Rising. The music here is very much like early Manilla Road. But the only thing that really hurts this album is the production. This is probably the worst produced Manilla Road album, I think, in the whole discography for me. It just sounds like the guitars are just way too fizzy, and it just really needs like a low pass filter. Sometimes I can't even hear the vocals. The clean parts are nice. I can hear those real well. But if we're basing this off the music, I would definitely give this roadworthy because the music's really good. And, you know, I don't really have a whole lot to say about the whole comeback album, so I'm going to make this quick. And the reason why I don't have a lot to say is because a lot of them aren't that different from each other. I feel like Mark found a sound, stuck to it. It didn't experiment too much after that. But I'll just kind of run through this quick. What's the second one he did that was a comeback? Spiral Castle. Again, it sounds a little better than Atlantis Rising, but still kind of raw sounding. I'll give it a roadworthy. Gates of Fire. Honestly, one of my favorites of the comeback Manilla Road albums. Very long album. Wait for this truck to go by. Very long album, very long songs, sometimes a little bit too repetitive, but I feel like this one's one of the strongest comeback albums. But I will still have to give it roadworthy based on the production. Okay, Voyager. Again, that's another classic. I'll have, you know, it's just typical new Manilla Road. Mark does a lot more, like almost gutturals, but not really on this one. Really savage vocals on this one. Still has kind of a bad production, but good songs about Vikings and stuff. It's roadworthy. After that, what does he do? He does Playground of the Damned, maybe? Which, this one, okay, starting this album, some people kind of think the next several albums here are kind of disappointing. I kind of like this one though. I liked it better than I thought. I'll call this one roadworthy. There's Mysterium. I might be getting these out of order. Mysterium kind of did the same thing to me. It kind of made me feel like it was a little disappointing. It didn't stick out as much, like the ideas. Like he was coming out with albums a little bit too fast, I think, at this time. It he wasn't letting his ideas develop enough. So I'll probably put this one as Vanilla Road. The Blessed Curse. I like a lot of the acoustic stuff on here, and that's one of my favorite things about it, but it falls into the same category. I might give it roadworthy based on the acoustic stuff. And then last but not least, the last Manilla Road album before Mark passed, To Kill a King. I feel like it suffers for some of the same problems. It starts off with a bang, but I feel like the songs are just a little bit too safe, a little bit too stock for Manilla Road. I might give it Vanilla Road, unfortunately. But there we have it. Great band, classic band. So happy I got to meet Mark Shelton at least once. Very cool guy. Very awesome band live. I don't know, man. I miss them pretty bad. But that's it. Thanks for watching.